Hello, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. Brandon. So I had the opportunity to meet Brandon about 4 years ago as I became a new worker here at CAS. He or she at the time was Brianna that I first met, and we were together for almost 4 years, and we had a wonderful time, a challenging time sometimes, but through his struggles, he did an awesome job of evolving into the wonderful young man he is today. He took many different directions, but along the way, he always held up the best he could, and then with support from myself and Kate, who was a worker at the time that I met through Iris, and together we were a team, and Brandon evolved. What's really neat is that he was the first one to get a legal name change here at the agency. So I'm very terribly proud of him, and we continue to chat till today. But I'm going to give this over to Kate and let her intro a little bit about Brandon too, and then I'm going to let Brandon go. He's got quite the story to tell you, and it's a beautiful one, so hold on.
I thought I was going after Brandon, but okay. I definitely scratched a lot of this stuff out, so I'm just going to kind of go with it. I had to write it out because it's kind of hard to talk in front of a group of people. So I'm just going to talk a bit about myself, and then kind of where I helped Brandon and how we kind of, our relationship grew to where it is today. So the coming out story, the classic line which we in the LGBT community often talk about. My coming out story was when I was 20 years old. I struggled really hard to open up and be expressive about who I was. I grew up in a divorced family, Catholic, low income, not to mention going to school where no one even knew what the term gay meant. It was hard, it was really hard, but after hitting a point, I had to make a decision, and so I did. I went through a lot of name calling from my brother and my mom, numerous family interventions which didn't work, but it resulted in a lot of shame and guilt that I had for a while. I even had a lot of friends who were confused and didn't understand. I remember thinking maybe I should have came out differently, or maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all, but honestly I couldn't have been happier finally being who I was and not denying my self-worth. Now that my family has come around, I have friends who support me and I advocate for LGBT rights. But my story is a lucky one. There are so many others that don't have the same life to live, which is why awareness and Pride Weeks like this are so important. That quote right there I actually had in my speech, but it's awesome that it's already up there. I think that's pretty strong. It's great. So sexuality and identity are things that most people believe come kind of without issues, without concerns. You know, when you're born, that's how it is, that's how you're supposed to be, etc. When someone struggles with both or one of the two, it's a feeling that's indescribable. It's like being trapped below a surface that you can't get out of, and when you try, everything you do, something keeps kind of pushing you back down there. When I first met Brandon, I knew he was a bit different. I suspected that he may be a lesbian. Saying it now, it kind of sounds a little weird. You know, they say like society kind of created male and female. There was never kind of anything set in stone that this is how a male is supposed to be, this is how a female is supposed to be. So when I say Brandon dressed like a boy, it doesn't really sit well with me. You know, he dressed how he wanted to dress because he felt comfortable. He dressed in clothes that were dark colors. Maybe they were sports related because that's what he wanted to dress like. When I met him at Iris, he started attending a group called Open Doors. I guess he's going to go into our relationship prior to this. I didn't want to kind of take his thunder. But don't judge what he says. Anyway, yeah, so he was going to this group called Open Doors, and I remember driving him home, and basically I said to him, you know, if there's anything that you want to talk about or you want to open up about, you might be surprised to know I might be able to relate a little more than you think. So I left it at that. I didn't kind of go into detail any further. Then he started to open up a little bit. He had this journal, and he started showing certain staff around the program his journal. So when he showed it to me, I read it, holding back tears because of how much pain he was in after reading it. And I never, the kids that I work with, I don't tell them my sexual orientation, but in this moment it kind of felt right. So I did, and we had a hug, and it was kind of like one of those moments. And basically it changed our relationship. From this point forward, it was about helping this kid be who he was born to be. It wasn't easy. His parents blamed me for a short period of time for converting him and corrupting his mind. But we started getting involved in a lot of other LGBT groups. One in Toronto, Ajax, Brandon slowly started hanging out with friends who could relate to what he was going through. But it was a battle. I mean, this kid went through a lot of grief and down periods. But eventually, like Susan said, he was able to change his name, get on testosterone. And it took a long time, but it all came together. One thing I always told him was to kind of make a difference. You have an incredible story, start telling it, which is why I'm so thrilled that he's up here and he's going to do this for you guys. It's an amazing story, and I am honored to have been a part of it.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Brandon. I'm transgender. I'm 19 years old, and I just want to say thank you for letting me speak with you guys today. So I'm just going to tell you guys a bit about my story and me coming out as transgender. So yeah, it's kind of long, but I'm just going to read it. All right. Have you ever felt uncomfortable in your body, like something wasn't right or something isn't supposed to be there? Well, that's what I had to deal with most of my life. My name is Brandon. I'm 19 years old, and I'm transgender. Transgender means that you were born as the opposite gender you were supposed to be. I was born female, but really I was male. I was born with a male brain but a female body. The correct term that people like to call it is gender identity disorder, also known as gender dysphoria. I believe your gender is different from your sex. So what I'm trying to say is your gender is your brain and your sex is what's in your pants. So my gender is male, but my sex is female. I know some of you are probably wondering how this is possible, but I will explain. To society, I was a girl for 17 years, but truly in my mind, I was always a boy. I felt like a boy ever since I could walk or dress myself. I was a girl even my parents. I thought I was a girl even my parents did. When I was born, my parents named me as Brianna. Ever since I was born, I hated that name. I was thinking what I could be called instead of Brianna. So I started calling myself Brie. Me and my grandma would always tell me, my parents, that something is different about me and I was going to cause lots of trouble. Well, she was right. Till this day, we laugh about it so much. She never complained about how I dressed. She only told me to do one thing for her, and that was to make my mom happy. But that was hard for me because my mom thought I was her little girl, but really, I was my mom's little boy. My mom would always try and convince me to grow my hair long or wear nicer clothes. Even my dad sometimes. It was the worst thing to hear from my parents to say stuff like that. They would get so embarrassed when we go into stores and I would try on clothes and the employee would ask my parents, what size is your son's shoe? And my parents would have to talk for a long time and explain to them that I was a girl. I wish sometimes they would just go with the flow and just say I was a girl. Well, I know how my parents really felt weird about this and uncomfortable. What about me? How did I feel? What was I going through? All I can say is really messed up. That's the only way I can really describe it. Like, imagine going to the girls' washroom and all the girls scream or ask, why are you in the wrong washroom? And I have to tell them I'm a girl and they just laugh at me. For all the guys to talk about which girl is cute and I couldn't join in with them because they thought it was weird. When all my guy friends had sleepovers and I couldn't go because I was a girl. Not to play sports with the guys, even in gym class they would split the boys and the girls, and obviously I would have to be with the girls. Also, to wear a dress at a funeral or wedding, or especially my grade 8 grad, worst nightmare ever. Like, again, I can't even describe it. Let's just say it's not normal for a guy to go through these things. When I started to develop breasts, it went downhill for me. All my guy friends were getting taller and stronger, and I stayed pretty much the same. Most of my guy friends started treating me more like a girl and not a guy. I used to wear big baggy sweaters in the summer all the time so no one could notice my chest, even on the hottest day, anything to make me look more like a boy. If I went swimming, I would wear t-shirts and shorts. I would be in swimming races at my trailer facing the females where they're in their bikinis and I still won, even with all the weight from the t-shirt. I was very athletic, but remember, I was on a girls' team. I played hockey, soccer, and basketball for most of my life. I played hockey for Clarington until I got kicked out for being too rough against the girls. Then I played boys hockey for a year, but then I couldn't play the following year, so I basically quit. Soccer, I played on a girls' team with all my elementary friends until I was 16, I believe. In hockey and soccer, I was very physical and scored lots of goals. A lot of players on the other team didn't like me much. I would get bullied on the ice a lot for getting called a guy, and all I did was ignore them or check them into the boards. But that's what got me kicked out. I love basketball, but only played it for my school. My dad wasn't into it much. When it came to school, I always got in trouble for acting up. But once I hit a puberty, so like grade 6, it got a lot worse. I got in fistfights all the time, always had detention. That office was like my home. I knew everyone there, and was there even more in my classroom. In grade 8, my teacher refused to teach me, and I had to work in the office until I got kicked out of that school. I wasn't proud of it, but where did this anger come from? No one knew, only I did. At home, things started not to go so well. My parents would be upset that I got suspended, and they would get in huge fights. I would swear and be very disrespectful. It got so bad they called Durham CAS, and I was put into care when I was 15. I wasn't really upset at the time that I got put into care because my 2 best friends got put into care one day before me, so I ended up living one. But I was upset. Why would I want to be in a group home listening to people I don't even know? All the staff tell me from all the homes I've been to that I look like a boy before they even met me. So I took it as a compliment because I always wanted to look like a boy. The first home I was at was called Myrtle. I hated there. It was in the middle of nowhere. My best friend lived there. We caused lots of trouble, but that's when I met Kate. She was not a so nice staff. She yelled at me all the time and I couldn't stand her. But thank God I got kicked out in a week for fighting. I never would have to see her again. After that, I moved 9 times from September 2010 to October 2011. So that's just past a year. In October 2011, I moved to the Irish program. I got kicked out of every house before because of my anger. This was pretty much my last chance. Before this, I was in a lockdown group home called Bayfield, where the rules were really strict and I got beaten up pretty bad, so my parents took it to court, and that's how I moved to Iris. I wasn't ready to move home yet, so Iris was the only option. All the staff there were very friendly and really nice to me, but I was really shy. I wouldn't even eat dinner with anyone. I talked to some of the kids, but barely. I didn't even take part in no house activities. All that anger was building up. But remember, this anger was building up since the end of grade 5, beginning of grade 6, so when I was like 9, 10 years old. I really got close with the staff, but eventually they all slowly started to leave and move on to better things. So we had this new staff, I heard. So I heard we were getting a new staff. I heard there was going to be a new program supervisor, but I had no idea who it was until she woke me up from school one morning. I ripped off my blanket and guess who I saw? That staff, Kate from Myrtle. I was doing well at Iris, and now this girl has to come here and work here. I was so mad. I could tell she wasn't happy to see me either, but she respected me, so I'll give her that. 1 year before I was at Iris, I watched a video on YouTube about this kid coming out as transgender. I had no idea what this was about until I watched it, and then I realized this all makes sense to me. If only I knew about this when I was, I just lost my spot. If only I knew about this when I was younger, but then here's the problem. How could I tell people without no one really knowing what it is? Summer 2012, Kate drove me to summer school one morning and asked me this one question, if I was gay. I answered quick and said no because I didn't feel comfortable about telling her I was trans. That summer though, my mom made a comment to me saying, "Why don't you dress like a girl? You're 17, it's time to grow up." And when she said that, all I could think of was my grandma saying, "Please make your mom happy." So for 1 whole week, I dressed like a girl to see if I could pull it off. One day, I just walked in my group home trying to look like a girl. Pretty much all my staff were trying not to laugh. They felt awkward and knew this wasn't me. I got fed up in a week and stopped it. I knew this could never be me. I had this guy named Adam on Facebook, but we never talked. I found out he was transgender, and then I messaged him asking him for advice and help. He messaged me back saying, "Come to a group on Tuesdays called Open Doors." I went to that group and instantly I felt welcome and normal. I felt like I didn't have to hide it anymore. Adam told me just to believe in yourself and do what your heart tells you and you'll be more happy, and he promised me that. After the group, Kate picked me up and said to me, "If you ever need to talk, I you can talk, we can talk. I just kind of said okay and went on with my night. That night, I decided to come out as trans. I wrote this 5-page letter at like 3 in the morning and explained what I was going through all these years. I was in so much tears while writing this. A staff named Jen was doing the overnight, so I went to the hall and gave it to her and said, please don't judge me if you think this is messed up, and I just went to my room. All I did was sit in my room for 15 minutes, crying, 15 minutes crying, just thinking what she was going to say. Jen was very accepting and she gave me a hug. She told me if I was going to tell someone, Kate would be the right person. The next day, even though I wasn't a big fan of Kate, I asked her to come up to my room and read this letter. As she was reading this, I was in tears because I didn't know her reaction. After she read it, she gave me a big hug and said, I promise I will do whatever it takes to make you happy. We had a very long talk, and then that's when it all started with us. That night, I called my worker Susan and told her at first, but all she said really was, I understand. But then she wouldn't stop talking for like 45 minutes to an hour. That's Susan for you. Her and Kate helped me a lot with coming out as trans. One day, Adam, me, and his dad Grant were thinking of names for me, but I couldn't think of a good one. So that night, I went home and talked to the staff, Kayla, and she asked me, what would you like to be called? I had no idea, so she said, how about Brandon? I said, sure. So that's pretty much how I came up with my name. Sorry, I just lost my spot again. I had no idea. Oh yeah, she never calls me Brandon though. She just calls me B-Run for some reason. I have no idea why, but I like it a lot. It took a while for everyone to start calling me Brandon and using male pronouns, but they learned pretty quick. Some of my guy friends refused to call me Brandon, but I eventually stopped talking to them. I stopped talking to them like 2 months ago, but it was very hard to let go. I lost quite a few friends, but I made tons. Sorry. Oh yeah, and I made tons of new ones. I remember Adam taking me to my first drag show at Lounge. It was very funny. I had a blast. I met so many great people. A drag show is pretty much when you dress as the opposite gender and perform songs. If you're transgender though, you don't really have to switch genders because you kind of already did. School was very interesting while I was coming out. Me and Kate went to my school and asked my CYW there if I could go buy a Brandon. She said that she would have to talk to the other students first to see if it was good for their treatment. But what about my treatment? Eventually, I left the school because they weren't accepting as much. I now pretty much do homeschooling and I will be graduating grade 12 in September. My parents didn't know I was going by Brandon until December. I didn't want to tell them because I was really nervous. The only reason why I told them is because I had a meeting at my house and everyone called me Brandon, so I had to kind of tell them. It took my mom a lot of time. She basically lost her little girl. I felt like I failed for what my grandma said about making her happy. As much as I love my mom, I have to do what's best for me though. At first my mom thought my staff brainwashed me and it caused unnecessary issues, but I understand what my mom was going through. She didn't know how to deal with it. I printed her off lots of information off the internet for my parents to read. My brother wasn't accepting until November last year, but now he's amazing. My parents have been really amazing though. They even paid for my surgery, but I'll tell you about that after. When I turned 18, my worker Susan told me she would pay for my name to be legally changed. I was so excited, but I didn't think this was coming true. My parents thought I was going through this process really fast, but I knew I was being serious, so I did it. I legally changed my name to Brandon Neil Fiedler. Kate told me where we needed to go to fill out the sheets and she mailed them for me. She was with me through everything I had to deal with. The day I got it, I did the forms at the end of January and didn't get my new birth certificate in August 2013. The day I got it was the best feeling ever. The staff Lennox told me he thought he saw The staff Lennox told me he thought he saw it in the office, so I ran really fast and yelled at Christine to give it to me. I opened the first envelope, it was junk mail. I thought that the staff read the envelope wrong. I was crying, just praying the other envelope was it, and it was. I was crying for 10 minutes straight, hugging Christine. I made sure that the board was switched from Bree to Brandon and same with their logbook. No more Brianna for me. That summer, I also went to a camp called Rainbow Camp. Susan was the one who found it for me. It was an LGBTQ camp in Sault Ste. Marie. I had to fly there by myself with some of the kids from camp. It was honestly amazing. I met so many people and heard so many stories. It was awesome. My friend there, who was also trans, told me about a doctor in Peterborough for testosterone. Testosterone is the male hormone and estrogen is the female hormone. Once I got home from camp, I called and booked my appointment for September 25th. But as much as I was happy, I was really upset. That summer was a nightmare. I still had this chest and that 1 month thing a guy shouldn't have. You know what I mean? I cried a lot and was very stressed. I basically spent the rest of the summer in my room doing nothing. It got really bad to the point I was self-harming. I would cut sometimes, and sometimes I would even punch myself tons of times in the face just because I hated myself and felt like I wanted to end my life. I ended up in the hospital a couple times. It wasn't a good experience at all there. They didn't help me one bit. I realized the only person who could help me was myself. The staff at Iris, though, helped me a lot throughout that summer. I don't know where I would be today without them. After I got home from the hospital, the director of Iris, Monica, with the help of Susan, put a program in place for me. It was called the Big Brother program. I wasn't a big fan of the residents at the house at that time because I would rather keep to myself. So I would have Lennox or Warren take me out for a couple hours a day to hang out. They were legit brothers to me. I could talk to them about everything. They treated me like a guy and their little brother. They still do to this day. They still do to this day. Oh, they call me all the time to see how I'm doing. Anytime I was angry, they would go for a walk with me and chat, or just go for a drive and blast music. They were there for me a lot. Every staff was, but these guys were there all the time. Eventually, Warren moved to Nova Scotia and the Big Brother program ended. My big bro was moving. I was really upset, and so was he. No one understood our relationship. It was family to me. He brought me into his family and treated me like a bro. His girlfriend Danielle has been there for me a lot too. Even though she's in Nova Scotia, she always finds a way to talk to me, and same with Warren. They are my second family, and I love them very much. Also, on every Wednesday night, Christine would drive me to Toronto for an LGBT group. Let's just say our drives are very interesting together. In September, I got a call from KMH just before my appointment in Peterborough. I went for a couple appointments with Dr. Zucker. But that wasn't much help. I didn't like how he dealt with transgenders. He was a very nice guy though. In September though, something happened. Susan wasn't going to be my worker anymore. It was really sad for me, but I took it good. I still consider her my worker and always will. She is still always there for me, as you can see today. At the end of September, me, Kate, my mom, and my worker went to Peterborough for my appointment to see if I'm eligible to go on testosterone. The appointment was really good. The doctor was very friendly and listened very well. That day, she gave me my prescription. My first shot was on October 9th. Everything was coming true for me. I'm going to be truly who I am. My friend Al had his appointment 2 days before me, so we celebrated together. He always tells me that we are tea brothers and all the guys from camp are going to have a tea party. I still laugh about it. As I was 18, almost 19, I believed that my time at Iris was over. I lived there for exactly 2 years. As much as I hated to leave there, it was time for me to move on to bigger and better things. My last day was very hard for me. I didn't cry though. I didn't want them to know how upset I was. I kind of made it not a big deal, but the next day I was at Iris visiting pretty much every day. I visit there a lot. Just consider it my home. Even though eventually most of the staff are gone, I still think of it as my home. I moved on my own within 2 weeks. I felt like being with my family was the right thing to do. They are so accepting of me and things are going amazing with them, so why not? I've been home pretty much ever since. Things have been going great. We do have our hiccups, but all families do. All my family is accepting, even my cousins. When your family is accepting, it makes things a lot better for them. In December, I was really upset because I had to wear this stupid binder all the time and it hurts. The binder is what flattens my chest. I was freaking out in my room when my dad came in and offered for him and my mom to pay for my surgery. I couldn't believe him. I was so happy and even proud of my parents for being so accepting. I realized they truly do love me for who I am. I realized my mom wasn't upset that I'm her son now. She does miss her daughter, but she's happy she has a son. They are huge supports for me and I couldn't thank them anymore. So January 27th of 2014, I had my double incision FTM top surgery. I had to wear a binder for a month straight and then no more binders for me. I took the binder off a week before I was supposed to because I was so excited. The healing process is amazing. I've been 6 months post-op, which means 6 months since surgery. After that though, I had my difficulties. The testosterone was really kicking in. I started to be rude again and didn't care about anything. I eventually left my parents and stayed with my friend Adam for 2 weeks. It was hard on both of us because his dad was very sick. Most of the week we were at the hospital with him until I was sent to the hospital. Lots of personal things were going on and I got really stressed out, so I overdosed on Adderall while trying to kill myself. It was the scariest thing that's ever happened to me. I almost died. I could feel me just slowly drifting away. It was so scary. I was rushed to the hospital that morning. I felt really bad for Adam and his family because they were dealing with Grant. I felt like a jerk, but Adam, Mel, Grant were with me, along with Kate. The only reason why I went to the hospital is because Kate messaged me freaking out that I had to go. I realized that I couldn't die and I couldn't do this to her. It was a bad moment for both of us. She helped me to get through it though. Eventually I moved home, was healing from my overdose. It took me around a week and then I was fine again. Right after that, I got robbed by a bunch of guys. They pretty much were making fun of me because I was trans. But after that, I realized I don't want to live like this anymore. I want to have a future and I want to do well. I started doing my schoolwork more, hanging out with new people, and got a job. I am more than happy now and living such a good life. Everyone accepts me. I do get the comment here and there, but it doesn't bother me now. I am Brandon, and I'm a guy. I'm proud of being me. I wouldn't change this for the world because if I didn't go through this, what I did, I wouldn't be the same. What I'm trying to say is just be yourself and don't worry what others think of you because your family and friends will support you all the way. I know it's not easy, but you can get through this and don't give up. I'm telling you, in the end, you will feel amazing. But all I want to say is I would like to thank the following people for helping me while I was in care and through my transition. Kate, the IR staff, my worker Susan, Rainbow King Danielle, and my parents. Thank you so much.